Hi everyone, welcome to JS Cafe and welcome to the machine coding series. So in this series we will be solving questions asked in the machine coding rounds, and in this video we are going to solve the question that is to make a small to-do app from vanilla JS, and we'll be solving this question today. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So basically machine coding rounds में you will be given a problem statement. Suppose like you have to make a to-do app. Let's consider this particular example for the video, and you have to code this application using vanilla JS. You are not allowed to use any third-party library for utility or the UI. You just have to code everything in vanilla JS and in pure CSS. So this is the basic requirement for the machine coding rounds, and you will be given some time to develop this application. Usually it is around one or a 1.5 hour given, and this time is actually flexible depending upon the interviewer. Let's suppose if they find that you are doing a really great in the progress, then they might give an extension in the time, or if they find that you are struggling with the application in the first half an hour, then they might stop your interview then and there only. So this is what happens in machine coding round. And there are also some rules, like you are free to do Google search just to look for the syntax. You are not allowed to copy anything, but you can, if you are confused with syntax, you can definitely Google up the syntax and use it, but you are not allowed to Google any solution, right? So for just for the syntax part, you are allowed to search, and the interviewer will monitor your searches. For example, let's suppose you have to implement a rendering thing in the vanilla JS. So you cannot search how to render elements dynamically in the UI in using vanilla JS. So what you can search is, for example, you wanted to select elements using query selectors. So you are confused with the syntax. So an interviewer will allow you to search syntax of a query selector in JavaScript, something like that. So you are allowed to search syntax, but not allowed to search for the solutions. So this is what we do in machine coding rounds, and the overall strategy for someone is to first of all make the UI structure first, like focus on the building the UI first, then code the functionalities. I have seen most of the candidates writing the basic logic first and then implementing the UI, which is very wrong. And interviewer might then and there may stop your interview, right? So whenever you are in a machine coding round, you have to first focus on building the basic structure, basic HTML, make the UI first, and so that your project is looking presentable at the moment. Once you are finalized with the UI, then you can start coding with the JavaScript logic, right? So this is what the strategy is, and it's very pretty simple. Let's have a look at the problem statement. So this is the overall mock for the application, and in this mock you can see that you will be given a screen where you will be having an input box where you will be entering your to do task basically, and this is a cross button, and on clicking of this cross button whatever text you have entered will be cleared out. Once you enter something over here with proper validations, you can add a to do by clicking on this button. So let's suppose I entered something xyz in this to do. Upon pressing enter, that particular to do will appear here, and with the to do mentioned in this particular text. Upon clicking this cross arrow will remove the to do from the list, and the list would become empty again. So if the list is empty, you have to show no to do's added as a text, and even if there is a one to do, then you have to show the to do, or if there are more than one to do, then you have to render them as a list. Okay, so let me read this instructions for you. Let me read these requirements for you. Input box, enter to do is editable. Clicking add to do will add a to do to the list. Empty to do is not allowed. Clicking the cross icon will clear the text. A list of all to dos must be shown as a list. Okay, about this. By default, the user cannot edit these to dos unless he double clicks the to do. Upon double clicking, it should become editable. When the user presses enter, then the to do must be updated. Clicking cross arrow will delete the to do from the list. If no to do is shown, then show text no to do added. Upon reloading, all the data must be retained. No data should be lost. So by this point, we mean that if we refresh our application, then we can still see the to dos over here and no data should be lost. And add required validations on the fields accordingly. Okay, fine. So this was the overall conditions and the requirements for this application. Now let's start building this application from scratch. Fine, so let us start coding. So we are in the directory to do web, and let me create one HTML file, XHTML. Okay, and so to quickly add a boilerplate, I'll do shift exclamation mark and press enter, and this will by default add basic text in my code. So this is our to application. Okay, so we'll be focusing on the UI and the HTML structure first, then we'll jump into the JavaScript. So let us quickly start building the application. So what I can look is that there is a container in which the elements are aligned vertically, and they are in the center of the page currently. So this can be easily achieved using flex, and elements can be centered vertically, and we can also have a equal margins from both the sides. So let's quickly create a container. So we have a container over here, and in this container we'll be having some elements. So for example, for now, let me add a div saying hey. So we'll have to also create classes. Let me create index dot. So after creating CSS file, we have to import our CSS into the page, and during the interviews, during this machine coding round, avoid using inline or embedded styles because they add a really bad impression, and it is not industry standard to use inline and embedded style. So we'll be using link tag, link relation equals to style sheet, and href equals to text.cs. Perfect. So on this container class, what I want is that first of all the width should be 50%, and I want it to be a margin 0 auto, and play should be flex with flex direction as column, right? And let's run this on the server. Perfect. Okay, so we have this render over here saying hey, but hey is exactly not in the center. I know why, because we told the display, we told flex to be a column, but we didn't set the align items. Okay, so the align items property of CSS helps us align the items on a y-axis basically of the flex direction. So our flex direction is basically column, right? So align items will work on the x-axis, which is vertical to the direction of the flex, right? So align item center is vertical to the flex directions. and justifiers on the the horizontal direction of the flex. So I'll add quickly align items as center. Perfect. So we have a div with equal widths from all the sides, and so let's come back to the mocks. So in the mocks, we see that we have a input box and a button. So we already have achieved a vertical box with equal widths from the side. We have to add an element which is the input. So let's remove this, and in this input box, what I can look is that it is contained inside a div, and inside that div we have a input tag, and beside that input tag we have a cross icon as well. So input box and cross icon are embedded inside the div tag, and we have to apply some css to achieve this ui. So we'll create a div saying input box, or we have a input tag, not the class for now. I have a input type as text. So in this input tag, we have also a cross icon. So I'll just say X over here, and let's suppose the placeholder is enter to do here. Enter to here, right? And let's add some properties to the input box. So in this input box, what I can see that usme we have a border. So we have border saying 1 pixel, and for now let it be solid black. So we have this input box with some border over here, and now what we have to do is we have to look after this input tag. So in our structure, we see that input is a child of input box, right? So, and it is not a descendant. So we have to make the child selector in css. So input box के अंदर have a input as a child, और ये this input what is it is having no border 0 and some padding of, let's suppose, 10 pixels, and the width is 100%. So we are having this input box, and we have an input tag exceeding the width, because we say that okay, so the issue is that okay, so input box में we have given a padding of 10 pixels. So if we look clearly, so 10 plus 10, 20 pixels is added padding, and we told input to take 1%, 100% width of input box. So because of the padding, it is taking extra 20 pixels. So what I'll do is I'll minus 20 pixels from over here. So calculate 100% minus 20 pixels. Yeah, it's perfect now. Okay. And in this input we have also a x. So we have to align x and this input side by side, right? और उसके लिए what I have to do is I'll have to make this x as a absolute positioned element. So cross icon. Yeah. And this cross icon is basically inside input box. So input box के अंदर input box should be position relative, and cross icon should be position absolute, and this cross icon is basically in the middle of, what I want is that this cross icon should be in the middle of over here, equally spaced from above, equally spaced from bottom, and some added space from the right hand side. So I'll do is top say let us give it 50%, and I want it to translate. I think the first parameter is the x-axis and the second is y-axis, and from right is 10 pixels. Perfect. So let me explain what I did here. That cross icon is position absolute, so it will float in the position relative element anywhere. I told it कि top से you become 50%. ठीक है, तो इससे क्या होता है? Let me comment this out and observe it first. ठीक है, तो टॉप से 50% मीन्स कि इस एलिमेंट का जो टॉप मोस्ट पोर्शन है, दिस पोर्शन इज टेकिंग 50% फ्रॉम द टॉप. ठीक है, तो टॉप से 15% आ गया अपने टॉप एज से, एंड दिस द रेस्ट ऑफ द एलिमेंट इज रेंडर्ड एज इट इज. टू मेक इट to make it in the center, I just need to uplift 50%, या फिर ऐसे कहें the half of the portion of this element should be uplifted to the upper side. तो उसके लिए I use transform scale. This is used to position an element upwards or downwards from its current position, from the center of axis. Okay, so I told it ki hey cross button, translate yourself up to 50% from your initial axis. So after adding this line, this went up 50% up from his initial axis. ठीक है, तो इधर it came in the center, but still, so I don't tell this cross icon कि तुम्हें right से कितना you want to have the margin space. तो right से it took complete 100% and ये element के बाहर आ गया. तो I just need to add right 15%, और ये बोला कि हाँ ठीक है, right से I will only take 15 pixel and I will be placed over here. Perfect. And once I start typing, I can see that this X and A are overlapping somehow. So this needs to be fixed. So from the right, I think we need to increase the padding, and padding should be 15 pixels plus 5, 20 pixels, and top right, bottom should be 10 pixels as well, and left should be 10 pixels as well. Right. और इसको now I have to give top right 30 pixel. 30 pixel में it took the full width. Okay, तो थोड़ा सा we need to increase it. Okay, ठीक है, I think this is okay for now, and I don't think we need to do something with the padding. 10 pixel padding is perfect. And yeah, this is it. Let me let's get to the round figure as 40. Great, save it, and yeah, we have it over here, and you can see that this is getting ugly over here. So इसके लिए what we are seeing is we can go to hover, we have active, we have focus, we have focus within, we have target. Okay, so focus visible is what is causing this outline. So we'll copy this over here. So I just need to remove this outline. Focus visible, outline as none, and this will do the job. Perfect. So this is looking awesome. Okay. So next we have a small button, add to do over here. So let's quickly add a button outside it. Button, the type button, and it says add to do. And since we are having only one button in the whole UI, we don't need a class for it. We just need to directly say button margin top as great, or instead we don't need this selector at all, or okay, let's just keep it for now. Okay, we have this and now we have to make a input box with a button outside the parameters. I think this is pretty easy. And reuse this code, and just make sure that whenever you are rendering repeated elements, make sure they are inside a ul li tag. So ul, and in li will render this irony. Perfect. So let's call this ul as our to-do list. This to-do list. So in this to-do list, what we have is we have li elements and a div tag. So in this to-do list, you can see this extra spacings and list styles over here, which we need to get rid of. So I'll say padding 0 and list style as none. Okay. So we get rid of spacings and the list styles. Next, we need to make this UI as this. तो उसके लिए what we can do is in to do list, ठीक है. So in to do list we have a input tag. So this time we'll use the descendant selector, and this input would be width of calculate 100% minus 20 pixels. ठीक है. And in to do list dot input, not input, basically the cross icon, right? The right is basically 0. Okay, so minus 10 pixels. 10, I think 20 may do the job. Perfect. So we have this, we have a cross icon, and we have achieved the UI over here. Okay, so this is the basic UI, and let's start writing the JavaScript. So what I can see that we can use object oriented classes to achieve this result. Like we can add all the operations related to the to do task, like insertion, deletions and edit inside the class, and it would be more presentable. So I can create a file name as todo.js, and I'll say to do is a class to do. The constructor will do something. I'll say in constructor we say this dot to do's is an empty array for now, right? And we can have a function to add to do. Okay, delete to do, and to update a to do, right? Okay, so we have created our to do class. It's now imported in our code base. Okay, this is the file for classes, and for all the other operations we'll keep an separate index file, index.js, and we will call index.js after importing todo.js, so that we have access to all the properties of to-do file, right? So if I say const to-do new to over here, and this will work. So if I show you the console.log, right, over here, so you see that we got the to do object over here. Okay, so this is how we'll be using this class. अभी के लिए let's add the operations. So you will be given saying add to do, and you need to add this to do. So you will be given only the value. Okay, you have to generate ID for this. So each to do, basically each list given in a to do will have an ID, will have a value, and when it comes to insert a to do, so we'll generate a ID and add a value. When it comes to delete a to do, so our front end would only send us the ID over here, and we will delete that particular ID from the array. To update a to do, again will be given in ID, will be given the value, and we will update the value based on the ID. Okay, so we'll have one more function, that is to generate the IDs. So what we need to do is setting this dot to do's dot push, and I'll be pushing an object with ID as math dot floor, math dot random. Okay, and for example that takes 1 2 3 4. So this would basically generate a random number. This function mat.random will generate a random function from with all possible values between 0 and 1. So it can be 0 0.333456 and the endless value, and I multiplied it with 1000, so that we may for example, if the value is 0.3457, and if I multiply by 7, the value becomes 3457 point something something. And when I mat dot floor it, or Instead math.floor, I think it would be better to use a %. Okay, so after a %, so that particular value, the decimal part will get removed and I'll get a integer value. So in this way we can generate new IDs. Okay, and the value of this particular object would be value, so nothing added over here. Okay, so I have added my value in my to do. To delete a to do, I'll be given the ID, and this dot to do's equals to this dot to do's dot filter a to do, right? And I need to filter out all the to dos that are having that. I need to filter out all the to dos whose IDs are not matching with the ID provided. So to do dot ID equals to ID, not equals. Yeah. So this will remove everything, and update to do may you will be given ID and a value. So this dot to do's equals this dot, okay, to do's dot map to do, and in this to do what I'll do is if to do dot id equals to id, then return id as, then return id and the value should be value. Okay, else return to do. Perfect. So what I did over is that I reset the array with a map. So map would return an array. So this dot to do's dot map, I'm iterating over each element of the to do, and if I find that the ID to update is matching the ID in the current iteration, so what I did is I just said that okay, return the ID from over here and return the value, return the new value that has been given from the parameters. Okay. So if you're confused with this line, this basically is ID and value as value. Okay. So if you are a little confused, so I'll say ID to update, value to update. Okay, this is making more sense and it is less confusing. And value dot update. Okay, this is making sense. Else will return the to do. So this we have set up our basic operations, and I think I might need one more is empty. So this is required in the case when we when we load the application for the first time, then we have no to do, right? So in that case we have to show a message saying no to do added. So this is where this is empty function would come handy. So is empty mein nothing, we just need to return this or to do's dot length equals to 0. If the length is 0, then it means it is empty. Okay. So we have the basic operations ready. It's time to play with a DOM now. So on click of this, I need to get the value. So I'll add a ID to the input tag from where we need to get the value. So get 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 to do input. Yeah, and I'll come over here and I'll say const to do input equals to document dot query selector, and hash of get to do input. Perfect. And इधर से I need to add event on click, add to do, have add to do function over here. So function to do, add to do में, so in add to do what we'll do is we'll check that if the value over here supplied is not empty, then you need to push the value in the to do. That's it for now. So we'll get the value of the input to do. So input value equals to do input dot value, and I'll say if input value is not empty, right? If it's empty, so what I do is I'll say alert enter valid to do, right? And I'll just return from here. Else I do to do dot add to do and input value. Perfect. Okay, this is fine up till now. We have a basic check over here that if empty value is provided, and we'll see an error. Okay, somehow it is not happening. Let me debug this. So let's add a debugger over here. Fresh, add to do. Input value is, oh, how come node value is value? Okay, okay, the input value is undefined. Okay, that is why I think it is not showing any value. Okay, let us iterate it. Enter to do value. Okay, let me add it once again. Let's move to one step ahead. Okay, so we have input value as empty. Okay, and we are having a check. If it is empty, just give an alert and return. Perfect. Okay, good. We'll remove the debugger from here. Enter valid to do. If I enter something, it is perfectly fine. Okay. Now the main thing is that since the element is now added in the to-do list, I need to render it over here. So what I'll do is I'll pick this line. I'll create a function, right? I'll create a function calling as const render list, right? And in this, okay, so in this we'll first of all select this to-do list. So I'll say to-do list container, and const to-do list container equals to document dot query selector. Perfect. So in order to create this, what we can do is we can make use of create element methods in JavaScript. So what I'll do is I'll first of all, okay, so I missed one function over here, is to get to dos, and it will simply return this dot to dos. And meanwhile, if you are not aware how this class works behind the scenes, then there is a great playlist, JavaScript Oops Under the Hood, in my channel, where you can learn how these classes are working behind the scenes in JavaScript, and how the prototypal nature of JavaScript is helping JavaScript to become an object oriented language. So links are in the description, do check them out. Okay, so we have this to dos over here. So to do dot get to dos dot map. I have a to. So first of all, we'll create this structure from scratch. So we have first of all a li element. So we'll say const li equals to document dot create element, and I'll say li. ठीक है, और क्या क्या है, we have a div const div equals to document dot create element, एक div बना लिया. We have a input and a span. Const equals to dot create element, const span equals to document create element as span. ठीक है, so we have created basic tags. So first of all, we'll add a class to this div element. So this is done by div dot class list dot add, और class list में I added input box. ठीक है, तो li में I have to append a div, और div के अंदर भी I have to append few things over here. So I have to append an input, I have to append a span. So input में it is of type text with a placeholder. Okay, we don't need a placeholder over here, and with no class, with some value also. Okay, so this can be achieved, right? So input dot type equals to text, and input dot value equals to todo dot value. And we have a span. So span dot class list dot add, and the class list is cross icon, and inside the inner HTML I need to add a x inner HTML, or it's better to say span dot inner text is basically n x over here. And I think we can make use of event bubbling and event capture to basically add or remove elements in this part. So I'll just quickly add a great. I'll add a attribute dot set attribute, and id should be todo.id, and we'll see how this come handy in the future. So now let's start appending the childs. So div में I have to append two childs. div dot append child. One is input and another is span. And inside, now this div will be appended to li dot append child, and we have append div, and we have to append this li inside ul, which is our to-do list container. So to-do list container dot append child li, and we can get rid of this for now. Okay. Okay, there is some error, I guess. Okay, actually we haven't called this render list, so I need to call render list at the end. Okay, perfect. So the reason it is, so we can see that things are rendering, and the reason why you can see this getting rendered twice is that we have not cleared our to-do list container over like, so before rendering the list we have to also clear our to-do list container to empty something. I think I have good logic, so we can say we can create a function, say empty node, the node, and just take a parent. So while we have a child present inside a parent node, first child, right? So all I to do is parent dot remove child and parent dot first child. So this is very simple logic that we get the parent node, we check that if there is a element, if there is a child inside that parent, and if there is a child present, then remove that particular child. So we'll continue this until the node becomes empty. We'll call this empty node on the to-do list container, and now once we call this function, so you can see that the list is not getting populated twice.